When Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool could only manage a 1-1 draw at home against Antonio Conte's Spurs at the end of the 2021-22 season, the German cut a disgruntled figure in the post-match press conference. "I'm sorry," he answered, when asked about Conte's defensive approach. "I am the wrong person to ask about this. I don't like this kind of football, but that's my personal problem." Klopp went on to complain about Conte using world-class players to sit deep and block, even though he did admit that it does work for Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. For him though, this kind of approach wasn't acceptable. There has been a tendency down the years to label these kind of approaches to football as negative, and whenever accusations about negative tactics are being thrown around, you can be sure that the name of another former Tottenham manager is soon to follow. That manager is Jose Mourinho. Throughout his career, Mourinho has seen his tactics labelled negative and his playstyle even jokingly referred to as parking the bus. Much of the time, this negative tag has been invoked as part of the back and forth that is a staple of football fandom. The question is, what do we mean when we talk about negative tactics in football? When people talk about negative tactics in football, there tends to be two different definitions at play. On the one hand, by calling a particular tactical approach negative, we are entering the realm of personal preference. Jurgen Klopp admitted as much when he was talking about Antonio Conte's football on that evening in May 2022, when he admitted, "I don't like this kind of football, but that is my personal problem." Used in this way, negative football often ends up meaning football I don't like, and the debates about what constitutes negative football can quickly descend into subjective opinion. In this sense, there is no such thing as negative tactics, just negative attitudes towards certain tactics. The obvious response to this perspective is that so-called negative tactics often work. In the case of Klopp versus Conte, Spurs came away from Anfield, one of the toughest away fixtures in the Premier League, with a point. There's nothing negative about that, you might argue. Jose Mourinho's career is testament to the fact that negative tactics can be effective. Since the early 2000s, the Portuguese manager has accrued 2 Champions League titles, 3 Premier League titles, 2 Serie A titles, and a La Liga title, along with a host of domestic cups along the way. But Mourinho's career is also testament to the fact that negative tactics might be losing their effectiveness. For instance, the last league title that Mourinho won was way back in 2012, over a decade ago. Since then, he has won a Europa League and a League Cup with Manchester United, alongside a Europa Conference League title with Roma. There does seem to be a more objective concept of negative tactics at play here. If Jose Mourinho's approach can be described as attempting to negate an opponent's tactics, then there is a case to be made that negative football is simply any approach that focuses on stopping the opposition from enacting their playstyle, rather than emphasising their own playstyle. But why might negative tactics be less effective than they once were? There are 2 reasons why this might have happened. On the one hand, trying to negate what another team is doing has become increasingly difficult as the standard of football has improved. Teams are now much better at breaking down low blocks, for instance, when their opponents are looking to absorb pressure. On the other hand, even the most negative tactics need to have positive elements. You still have to try and score goals when you have possession. Once again, football teams are now much better equipped to deal with opponents trying to hit them on the break. Bring both of these aspects together, and most approaches that focus on negating an opponent will struggle at the very top level. But negative tactics may still be the best approach for some teams when they come up against the very best sides. This doesn't have to mean that teams need to sit deep or park the bus against big sides. We're currently seeing the rise of teams utilising smart out-of-possession systems to cause problems to their opponents. This could be an intense high press, which keeps oppositions at arm's length, or a smart mid block that can smother an opponent's options and stifle their creativity. So negative tactics are here to stay. This does raise a deeper question. As modern football becomes increasingly entertainment focused, and as the cost of football fandom continues to rise, it is worth asking how audience will respond to negative tactics. Will it be the case that fans will be happy enough with their teams winning by any means possible? Or will the prospect of watching your team simply stopping another team from playing put people off?
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. There are journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.